just for you, Mr. Reed. I'm just going to send it to kind of go over what I see. Basically, here-ish, maybe an airburst. Here and here, impact sites. You can bring those up and show those. So those seem like impact sites. And you can kind of look at the fallout of what would have happened had we been hit by a bunch of comet fragments in these specific locations. So essentially this seems to be the largest impact site. These three, it looks like one impact, a tangential strike here, and then over here you have two tangential strikes, possibly a smaller one here. And the list is not exhaustive. There may be other impacts. There might be one up here just off the coast of Mexico, southwestern Mexico. But basically what would have happened from all of this, massive waves and tsunamis, obviously. So we have one I call the southern path that kind of just heads this direction. Seems like it would have blown through the Drake Passage. And obviously the Coriolis effect affects these waves and makes them turn a little bit. So this wave would have continued straight through. It would have hit the coast of Africa here, where you can see it's kind of just scarred. It's dry and sandy, and then you can see where the water would have rushed onto the land and then flowed back and made this underwater feature, I guess, just pushing all the sediment back away. There are a few different saltwater lakes or just salt deposits, depending on how you look at it. That wave obviously would have continued to curl around, circling around Madagascar. You can see these kind of ripple effects from the current. Comes up here. You'll see a flow come through here later. But basically this wave pushes straight up. The original impact, I can't really decide exactly how it may have happened, but it seems like it could have pushed all this land, or all these striations here are where the water funneled in and then just kind of reverberated back out. But obviously the water would have flown this way, come in here, get caught, flood Australia, come underneath even this direction. You can see, seems like flows of water came in through here. These are all salt deposits, saltwater lakes, things like that. A lot of it through Australia. And it would have flowed up this way. We also have the northern tsunami path, which originating from here would have gone north and inundated the Bering Strait, a lot of eastern Russia. Let's see if it would have flowed through here. You can see the deposits of where it would have gone. It would have also, due to the Coriolis effect, come underneath what would have been the Laurentide ice sheet here, gouging out and forming a lot of these islands. But also, a lot of them have directional flow patterns. The water would have gone over Alaska, flowed down this direction in between the mountain ranges, and eventually caused all of the Missoula flooding, the Lake Agassiz and all of those things that are supposedly caused by the flooding up there and the melting of the Laurentide ice sheet. This flow would have also come across northern Russia, as you can see there, just destruction, through Scandinavia, across and impacting Europe, and then curving. Some of this water also would have gone, let's see, through here. So we also have the Caribbean wave. So these two impact sites here are obviously tangential and directional. It would have pushed all this water directly through the Caribbean. Seems as though it eroded the northern part of South America there, flowed straight across, continued across the Atlantic, where it impacted Europe as well, flowing through the Mediterranean and straight through. Like I showed earlier, the southern wave coming up would have intersected this coming down the Red Sea, and it would have changed the direction of that flow along with this pressure, which deposits all of this sand and sediment here as it changes the direction of the flow and basically creates the entire Somali Peninsula. That northern flow would have come just all across Europe. You can see directional flows out of this mountain range as if this area that seems to have like pooled there. The land here is more salty than most other lands, so that at least gives some type of sign. The flow would have come across here, forming the Black and Caspian Seas. There are more mechanisms here that I'll show in just a second, but you can see that flow seems to have come out, which would have also pushed this flow downward. Now you have come back to the impact site, and now we have our western flow, which would have headed west, obviously, and it seems as though it would have gone over Japan, through China, Mongolia, and just flow across here. You can see that water flow would have pooled into this area, which eventually drained with tons of sediment. I believe that this is theorized to be an ancient lake bed, but it would have actually just been tons of material from the ocean being blasted into here, so tons of oysters and things like that. All these lakes in the high Himalayas, these are all saltwater lakes that have been there forever. This flow also would have come over where it meets that northern flow that came over northern Europe. And as this flows on top and this flows underneath, it would have carved all of this out as it's trying to change directions. And then again, it all meets up and flows out through here, through Afghanistan, Pakistan area. Now, obviously you can zoom in on a lot of areas. You can see these directional flows. You can see the compression of land where tsunamis and things would have hit. I can label everything. I can go into much more detail that I've seen. I have other theories as if this impact possibly caused the mid-Atlantic ridge as a buckle, and now that Atlantic ridge is separating due to tectonic rebound. It would have also formed volcanic areas just because of the subduction pushing that material, crumpling it together, and as it opens, it's basically opening up to the mantle in a way. That northern wave that comes in and pushes on northern Europe would have compressed the Mediterranean and made it slightly smaller, but during that it would have pushed all of its water and sediment out onto the northern Sahara. You can see these flows of water as if that did happen. And also the Mediterranean lacks sand. It's mostly rock at the bottom. That compression onto northern Africa also pushes down and would have caused the southwest Indian Ridge. Same situation. It's a compression area that has since started to separate. The southern flow would have eventually become a current that circles Antarctica, which would instantly cool the earth. Obviously, you can see that all of this land seems to have been inundated with water. And now what I see as the smoking gun is, well, physics doesn't lie. This entire void, this tangential strike, would have actually cleared more water up, a little more than what I have marked there. But this would have been a void of empty all the water would have been vaporized, removed from this area. The Coriolis effect, as the Earth spins, would have held this this western wall back at least somewhat, while forcing this eastern wall to start falling back in faster. So there would be a discrepancy on how the water actually flows back into this area. You can see, no, not that one. Where did I put it? Oh, is it all together? Okay. So you can see that this wall of water would have fallen in, and as it scrapes along the seafloor, would have picked up all this sediment and just pushed it into a line here. The very center of the impact would have eventually formed some type of vortex underwater due, again, to the Coriolis effect. This northern side of the wall, as it crashes back down, begins to meet water that wants to flow eastward, where down here the water wants to flow westward. So it would have just compounded here and continued westward, as up here, so the equator is at this line right here. So this water would have rushed back down and gotten underneath this other wall of water, which forms this barrel roll type of feature. As you can see, the water would have flowed under. As more water crashes over the top, it creates that lateral barrel roll, and tons of sediment would be pushed out the bottom, heading out this direction. These are kind of the signs of the roll, and then off to each side, you would have these eddies that form the circular motion. Obviously, this side should be longer and extended, and that's, again, due to the Coriolis effect. And then this massive vortex would have spun here and just uplifted sediment and eventually formed these islands, Fiji and Fiji. And again, this big scraping action would have formed this whole ridge here, as well as New Zealand. You can see that it's all very directional here, and then as this wave continues to circle Antarctica, it would push the water back that direction because it's already loose sediment. I'm sorry, not water, land. It's already loose sediment. And you can kind of see some type of compression marks from a wave hitting this direction and flowing off there. What I've come to realize, well, let's see. There are airburst locations up here, just from things. We went through the the tail of the comet is my theory. Water flowed through North America. What else do I have? You can see again, all of this water would have been pushed across the land here, so it could not flow back. So the water that falls back in on this western edge is unobstructed. It would have fallen in and just kept going, forming almost like a bullet blast of water into the edge of South America. If there was an impact here, again, kind of the same thing. That wave heads in this direction, compressing the land here, pushing in and forming this kind of buckle, while also depositing all of this salt and these saltwater lakes in the Andes Mountains, which again are all directional, as if that wave had just blasted up there. You can see that water would have come down, flowed down this way, and left all these deposits. Again, we have that circumpolar flow going around and just continues to push the sediment this way. It also aligns with, the Great Biblical Flood. Just inundated all of this. Huge. We have the Al Nazla Rock, which is located roughly here, which I think could have possibly been an ancient megalithic structure that just got wiped out by this wave. You have ancient China has stories of the 7 rivers that erupted from the heavens. As you can see, all of this flow through from all of that water that got trapped and pooled and then eventually flowed out. You can see the directional flows of that. Ancient Hopi mythology says that the earth was ended by fire, which would have been all of the air bursts and it just entering through the tail of the comet, and then the ice age, because of the that current wrapping around Antarctica, would have cooled off the planet very, very quickly if the impact didn't just blow the atmosphere off for a short time. And then also they have the flood myths, which is, well, the Laurentide ice sheet melting, Lake Agassiz, which would have obviously tons of turmoil, tons of blockages and dams and things that just released over time and melted. And they have the story of a strange cloud during the day and a moving star at night, which a comet. So yeah, if you find this compelling at all, please let me know, because I'm very interested to try to find people that can discuss this more. I already have like a kind of a 12-page paper written. I just published it with a vague description. My model's changed drastically since I wrote that. Nearly every time I get on here, I find more and more what I would call evidence of this happening. But yeah, just let me know what you think, Mr. Reed. Thank you.